Hey everybody, welcome back to the Placebo Effect. This is Ruben, and I'm kind of in a theme right now, trying to just convey my thoughts regarding evidence for God and a creation and a creator, right? And looking at it from the lens of the fact that us as humans are creators, right? And so one of the things that happens online is, if you ever get into a dialogue with an atheist, this could even happen in person too, where you'll be challenged with the question, well, what evidence is there for the existence of God? Or what evidence is there that there is creation? Well, I talked about this in another video before about the Lamborghini being a good example, but I just watched a really interesting video recently on YouTube talking about the Xenobot. And I'm going to have a link for this video so that you can watch the intro for yourself. It's really fascinating. It's a living nano robot. Like, it's nanotechnology, but it's comprised of living cells. And it's really fascinating when you think about it, just how science is capable of advancing technology in such a way where we can actually create biological robots, right? I mean, it's crazy where we're at these days in the field of technology. And the field of nanotechnology is incredibly interesting as well. There's a great scientist by the name of James Tour, and he's a leader in the field of nanotechnology, and he actually has a great take two on trying to explain how there is no scientific explanation for abiogenesis, and how any claims made by science really are pure speculation, and they are not really rooted in actual scientific methodology. And I'll link that one too, just as a footnote, because James Tour is pretty brilliant in the field of nanotech, and we're talking about that right now. But anyway, so this is, to me, another really good example of how we as humans are creators. It's what we do. We ideate and we create. And so within the context of human thinking, how can we truly fathom life in the absence of that? Like, can we truly fathom what an uncreated creation is like? Can we truly expect that to be a reasonable output? Right? The basic high-level explanation of what is evolution is an undirected process from random mutation and natural selection. So not purely random, right? It's an undirected process. Undirected is an emphatic word here, right? It's something that's emphasized in a summary explanation. Richard Dawkins actually will be specific about emphasizing the word undirected process, right? In terms of trying to be clear on the lay perspective that, it's just random, right? So an undirected process affected by natural selection and random mutation over time. But still, the undirected process, right? Well, the Xenobot didn't come from an undirected process, right? We created it. Human beings specifically looked for a particular combination of cell structures in order to get the precise function that they were looking for. Now, through, I would imagine, a lot of trial and error, they eventually got to the state where we can actually even be talking about Xenobots. Which leads me to another point about trial and error, right? Trial and error is something that we understand as people. We see this all the time, right? Trial and error is something that happens in our own experimentation to get a desired output. I mean, think about it. If you're cooking, for example, then you have quite a few trials of messing up what you're trying to cook for the first time. Maybe it's baking a cake, or you're trying to make good lasagna or whatever, and you have the basic understanding of ingredients, and the first few attempts just aren't really great. You have the wrong ingredients, you don't have enough flavor, you don't have enough taste, and then eventually you get it right. Well, an undirected process doesn't have that luxury, does it? Undirected process isn't going to have these trial and error scenarios. Matter of fact, in the grand scheme of life, the failures are death. And dead animals don't pass on genes. Dead life doesn't pass on genes, right? Dead life doesn't pass on its failure to the living. So this is one of the things that I just don't understand as a Christian, is how it's reasonable to conclude this. You know, when I was an atheist, I accepted the secular worldview that evolution was true all the way up to including biogenesis, essentially just resolving that we came from nothing and taking whatever the scientific dogma was on the subject, right? I'm not an expert in the field, but, you know, from how I was taught to me in schools, right, that we came from just millions and millions and millions of years, and over time, the undirected process and random mutation eventually got us from, you know, use the interesting play on words, from bacteria to Beethoven, basically, right? But again, as humans, we only know life as creators. And the Xenobot is so amazing because it's evidence of how when you are purposefully directing something, when you have a specific design in mind, you haven't achieved output. So the real question here, right, in terms of continuing my theme, is what's the evidence for God? And my answer is the Xenobot is, can the Xenobot be a life form that could have ever arrived randomly on its own? Would it have ever arrived on its own from undirected process of random mutation and natural selection? Answer to that clearly is no. It's human created invention. But that's kind of my point. We, as people, created this wonderful new technology. And we create all kinds of other amazing, wonderful stuff. Like I said once before, the Lamborghini, right? And tons of other cool things. And I'll probably focus on a different theme in my next video on this subject. But the Xenobot is a pretty freaking cool invention. And for me, it's yet again another example to illustrate how creators create, and it yields a very specific output. And in this case, we created a living organism to do what we want it to do. That's evidence for God. We are created creatures in the image of God. And so why wouldn't we have this ability to continue to create by extension? I think the bigger question is, if we are just a product of millions of years of evolution by undirected random mutation over a long period of time, what is the scientific explanation for how we became creators? What is the gene, the creator gene? What combination of amino acids yields this result? What combination of proteins yields this result? Where's the DNA strand that has the creator gene in it? Anyway, the Xenobot, pretty cool piece of technology that we've done as humans. Doesn't rival God, of course. The amazing beauty of the ultimate creator is at the atomic level, right? But it's pretty neat that we've done something when it comes to creating a robot out of living cells. So if you want to check out the video I linked for the Xenobot to get more info on that. Also, check out James Tour's presentation on refuting abiogenesis theory. I think that's a very fascinating presentation. It's definitely worth checking out. And that's my thoughts for this episode. So God bless you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again.